The following cases demonstrate the danger of assassins who manage to escape from custody, as well as the challenges faced by authorities in recapturing them. They also highlight the importance of rigorous security measures in the prison system and during the transport of dangerous prisoners. In this video, we bring you 10 assassins who escaped from prison. Sarah Jo Pender. Sarah Jo Pender was convicted in 2002 for her role in the murder of her two roommates in Indianapolis, Indiana, in 2000. She received a sentence of 110 years in prison. On August 4, 2008, Pender escaped from the Indiana women's prison with the help of a corrupt prison guard, Scott Spittler. He helped her leave the prison, hidden in a garbage truck. Pender remained on the run for 136 days, during which she was featured on the show America's Most Wanted. She was finally captured on December 16, 2008, in Chicago, where she was living under a false name. Her escape and subsequent capture attracted considerable media attention, with some questioning the extent of her involvement in the original crime. Sharon Kinney, known as La Pistolera, was convicted of murdering her husband in 1960, although she was also suspected of killing her love rival and a man in Mexico. After being convicted of murder in Mexico in 1969, Kinney was sent to Ixtapalapa prison in Mexico City. On December 7, 1969, she escaped from prison in a mysterious manner and was never seen again. The circumstances of her escape were never fully clarified, and Kinney remains at large to this day. She is one of the most wanted and longest-running fugitives from the United States. Gonzalo Lopez. Gonzalo Lopez was a convicted gang member serving a life sentence for murder in Texas. On May 12, 2022, Lopez escaped from a prison bus while being transported to a medical appointment. During his escape, Lopez managed to free himself from his restraints, attacked the bus driver, and escaped to a rural area. His escape triggered one of the largest manhunts in recent Texas history. Tragically, on June 2, 2022, Lopez broke into a country house and killed 5 members of a family, including 3 children. He stole the family's vehicle and fled. Lopez was finally located and killed in a shootout with police later that same day, after 3 weeks on the run. This case generated much criticism about the security procedures of the Texas prison system. Alan Legere, known as the Monster of Miramichi, was a Canadian killer who terrorized the Miramichi region of New Brunswick in the late 1980s. Legere was originally imprisoned in 1986 for murder. On May 3, 1989, while serving a life sentence, he escaped during a hospital visit for treatment of an ear infection. Legere managed to free himself from handcuffs using an improvised key made from a piece of metal from his glasses. During the 21 days he was on the run, Legere committed 4 additional murders, as well as several robberies and sexual assaults. His escape caused widespread panic in the region. Legere was finally recaptured on November 24, 1989, after a police chase. He was convicted of the additional murders and returned to prison, where he remains to this day. Donald Leroy Evans. Donald Leroy Evans was an American serial killer who confessed to killing more than 60 people in 20 different states, although only 3 murders were confirmed. Evans escaped from custody on August 15, 1993, while being transported to a court hearing in Gulfport, Mississippi. He managed to free himself from his handcuffs using a key he had hidden in his mouth. During his escape, Evans took a hostage and stole a car. However, his freedom lasted only 3 days. He was recaptured on August 18, 1993, after an intense manhunt involving hundreds of police officers. Lyda Southard. Lyda Southard, also known as Lady Bluebeard, was an American serial killer from the early 20th century. She was convicted of poisoning her 4th husband with arsenic in 1921 and was suspected of killing several other husbands and relatives to collect life insurance. Southard was sentenced to life in prison in Idaho. In May 1931, she escaped from Idaho State Penitentiary with the help of another prisoner, David Kronk, who had fallen in love with her. They sawed through the bars of her cell window and fled together. Southard remained on the run for almost a year, living under a false name in Denver, Colorado. She was finally recaptured in July 1932 after an anonymous tip to the police. She was returned to prison in Idaho, where she served another 10 years before receiving parole in 1942. James Earl Ray. James Earl Ray was convicted of the assassination of civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968. He was sentenced to 99 years in prison. On June 10, 1977, Ray escaped from Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary in Tennessee, along with 6 other prisoners. They used an improvised ladder to scale the prison wall. Ray's escape triggered a massive manhunt. He was recaptured after 54 hours, found hiding in a mountainous area near the prison. This escape added 1 year to his sentence. Joseph Christopher Garcia. Garcia was a member of the Texas Seven, a group of prisoners who carried out one of the most notorious escapes in Texas history. On December 13, 2000, Garcia and 6 other prisoners escaped from the Connolly Unit, a maximum security prison in Texas. They overpowered guards and staff, stole clothes, money, and weapons, and fled in a prison vehicle. During their escape, the group committed several robberies and murdered a police officer on Christmas Eve. Garcia was recaptured on January 4, 2001, in Colorado, along with most of the other fugitives. He was later executed in 2018 for his role in the police officer's murder. Nikolai Zhumagalev, known as Metal Fang due to his metal teeth, Zhumagalev was a Soviet serial killer convicted of killing at least 7 women in Kazakhstan in the 1980s. Zhumagalev was declared insane and sent to a psychiatric hospital in 1981. He escaped in 1989 during a transfer between institutions and remained on the run for 2 years. Surprisingly, he was recaptured in 1991 in his hometown of Uzunagach, where he was living openly. After his recapture, he was again committed to a psychiatric hospital. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, one of the most infamous serial killers in American history, escaped from custody twice. His first escape occurred on June 7, 1977, during a preliminary hearing in Aspen, Colorado. Bundy jumped from a second-story window of the courthouse library and remained on the run for 6 days before being recaptured. Bundy's second and more notorious escape happened on December 30, 1977, from Garfield County Jail in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. He lost weight to fit through a hole he cut in the ceiling of his cell and escaped through the ventilation duct. During this escape, Bundy traveled to Florida, where he committed his final crimes, including the attack on the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University, which resulted in 2 deaths. He was finally recaptured on February 15, 1978, after being stopped for driving a stolen car. So, which of these escapes did you find the most mind-blowing? Comment below and see you in the next video.